We just got an incredible season finale for Dutton Ranch and now everything has reached its breaking point. Will Beth and Rip be able to save Carter from Mariano who really killed Rob? What is Beulah going to do? Could there be a surprise crossover? And most importantly, when will season 2 actually arrive? Let's break it all down, starting with everything that happened in that action-packed finale. After the shock of Beulah stealing cattle from Mexico back in episode 8, Beth and Rip discovered that same cattle was being used to smuggle drugs, and immediately realized that whoever was behind it would eventually come looking for them at the ranch. Meanwhile, on the other side of the story, we were introduced to arguably the biggest villain in Yellowstone history, as after Beulah handed the 10-petal ranch over to Rob Will, a furious Joaquin called Mariano, who then came to Texas to make sure. Joaquin took control of the ranch and got his drugs back, and the first thing Mariano did was order Joaquin to kill Rob Will. From there, Mariano turned his attention to Beth and Rip, declaring war on them to reclaim his drugs, though the two managed to fend off their enemies with help from Azul, Zachariah, and Everett. But Mariano wasn't finished, and before anyone realized what was happening, he had Carter kidnapped. At the same time, Rob Will turned up dead, and while all the evidence currently points to Joaquin, there's a strong theory that he didn't actually pull the trigger himself. Much like Jamie in the original Yellowstone series, who was completely broken after killing someone, Joaquin may simply be too similar in nature to have done it directly, meaning Mariano likely had one of his own men carry out the killing while forcing Joaquin to witness it, which would explain why Joaquin looked so devastated afterward. And just like that, season 1 ended with Rob Will dead, Carter kidnapped, and Mariano holding all the leverage. So what can fans expect from season 2? One especially exciting theory ties directly into the Yellowstone universe. In the spin-off Marshals, Tate was said to be heading to Texas with Tom Weaver, a character secretly working against Kayce while pretending to help him, which raises the possibility that Tate could also end up kidnapped and brought to Texas around the same time as Carter, potentially leading to a joint rescue storyline. Most likely, Beth and Rip would call on Kayce for backup, since taking on an entire cartel alone isn't realistic, and once Kayce arrives in Texas, he might grow suspicious that Tate never stopped by to see his aunt as expected, eventually leading him to suspect Tom Weaver kidnapped Tate, which could set up a scenario where Kayce helps rescue Carter in Dutton Ranch Season 2 while Beth and Rip help rescue Tate in Marshall Season 2, creating a compelling crossover between both shows. On the other hand, there's also a strong possibility no crossover happens at all, since going straight into an all-out war with Mariano at the start of Season 2 could use up the show's biggest action too early. Instead, Carter's rescue might come from Teeter, Oriana, and Walker, especially with Oriana now facing her father's death and her pregnancy, likely with Carter as the father, meaning she'll need him back more than ever. Once she learns he's been kidnapped, she could turn to Teeter and Walker for help, with Teeter possibly convincing Walker to intervene by offering him half of the 10-petal ranch, with the other half going to Oriana, potentially motivating Walker to ask his father to release Carter. A request Mariano might actually accept, since he'd get his drugs back and see his own son placed in charge of the ranch. Even so, Mariano would likely become even more dangerous afterward, closely watching Beth and Rip to make sure they stay out of his business, possibly even pressuring them into working for his drug operation, which could push Beth and Rip to start quietly plotting his downfall, not through open war but by outsmarting him, with turning Walker to their side potentially serving as their first move. On the relationship side, after Beulah revealed her past to Everett and he walked away from her, there's a good chance that over time he'll come to understand she never really had another choice, especially once she helps rescue Carter, possibly giving their relationship another shot. Though there's also a darker possibility where Beulah completely loses control and declares war on Mariano herself, a path that could ultimately lead to her death. As for when fans will actually get to see Season 2, the good news is it's officially been confirmed, though Season 1 showrunner Chad Feehan has been replaced by Benjamin Cavell, who's expected to keep the show's tone intact even though a showrunner change like this can delay production. With filming currently rumored to begin in fall 2026, which would likely put a Season 2 premiere sometime around fall 2027.